You're watching footage of the Winston-Salem State University Red Sea of Sound at the 2017 Honda Battle of the Bands. Hi, my name is Joshua Jones, a junior sport management major and a member of the Red Sea of Sound. Within the past 5 years, the topic of should marching band be considered a sport or is marching band comparable to a sport has become a huge topic. In this production, we explore how the two are comparable, and by the end of this production, we hope that you will see why marching band is comparable to sport. Before we can further move on, we must first define sport. Dictionary.com defines sport as an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess and often of a competitive nature. Now, band is an activity that requires skill and some sort of physical prowess. And if you've been to any football games, you'll see that we are pretty competitive. Now let's hear what some of our band members have to say.
Marching band be considered a sport?
Yes, marching band should be considered a sport.
And why should it?
Because we work just as hard as all the other student athletes on campus.
Should marching band be considered a sport?
It should.
And why should it?
Because it takes endurance to march on the field and play at the same time. Like, it takes energy, it takes endurance, it takes strength. Like, you need to be able to do all of it at once without getting tired and not falling out on the field.
Marching band be considered a sport?
Yes, it should.
And why should it?
Because we work very hard. We're in practice from 5:30 to almost 11. We march, we play music. Like, I don't think any other sport can do that. So we should be considered a sport.
Now let's hear from somebody who was a student athlete and a band member. WSSU women's head basketball coach, Coach Latanya Lamont.
Now, during your time here at Winston-Salem State University, you were in the band as well as an athlete. Can you expand on, that journey and how that was being an athlete and a bandsman?
Oh yeah, so when I came to Winston-Salem State, I was only coming here for a year. And when I enrolled in school, we had this freshman orientation, and the band was actually having band camp. And a lot of the guys in the band knew that I was a drummer. And so what ended up happening is they was like, well, why don't you come play the drums? And I was like, no, I'm done with it. So I decided to go ahead and play the drums. So I went through band camp with everyone while I was here and became a drummer. The basketball coach ended up seeing me a couple of weeks later and was like, I didn't know you was going to school here. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So Coach Clark was like, well, in band practice was running up the hills. And then sometimes if you were not playing your instrument or you're hitting the wrong note, hills was a punishment. And if you think about it as an athlete, you feel like punishments are going to the hills. And it's just making you better when you have to go up the hill. But we did do that a lot. And when I was a student here, we marched. So you would start at the band room and you actually played and danced all the way to the field. And then you practice for 2 hours or 2.5. You run up the hill and then you get set and then you march back up to the band room. And then every Friday we marched the entire campus. And so everyone would come out their dorms and watch the band, and we actually performed like it was a parade every Friday back to the band room. But that's when the campus was a driving campus. And so when you get to the band room, you're practicing for another hour, and then you're going to go off to your sections and practice for another hour. So, your practices went from 2 to 4 hours because you'd have sets. And so that was the biggest thing. So, it really was. It's like exercising when you're marching all over the campus for miles. And on Saturdays, you have parades. Those parades aren't just, 500 meters. It's miles that you're going to be marching. And I know one thing, people look at band members and they say, oh, they're heavy, they're overweight, but you don't really know the shape they're in. Because in the band, you're doing push-ups on a regular basis. Not only are you running, but you're having to do other exercises. And you're carrying an instrument. Some of these instruments are heavy. And you're marching with this instrument on your shoulder or in your hand. Some bands have, the SWAC, what we do, where you're high-stepping. And then you have other bands that's heel ball toe. And you're doing that for miles. So your legs are going to be bigger than a lot of other people. But yeah, it's a great thing to be a member of a band.
Being a bandsman and an athlete, would you say that marching band should be considered a sport?
You know what? I do believe it can be a sport. The reasoning why is because we had to exercise. Everyone that played the drums, well, pretty much the entire band, when we got down to the track, we all had to run the track. We had to run for a mile. What a lot of people don't understand is when you play different instruments, you have to breathe. And that's coming from your lungs, so your capacity has to be expounded a little bit, a little expanded. And with that being said, if you don't have the wind in order to blow your instrument for a certain amount of time, then you're going to have to exercise. And so a lot of people don't know how important it is to have the lung capacity. So not only are you breathing, you're also marching and playing. It's just like someone that's singing and dancing at the same time. And think about it. If you go to a Beyonce concert, a lot of times she's not even singing. They actually have music playing over her because it's hard to do that. And so, yeah, in a way, it is like being an athlete. You have to be in shape in order to play in a band.
Now let's meet the man who's over the band, Dr. Michael Magruder.
Going back to your time as a student in Jackson State to now, how many years have you been involved in marching band?
Okay. 40.
40?
40 years ago, I 40 years ago I graduated from Jackson State, so we need to say 44.
44?
44 years, yes.
Yes, sir. And you are now the director of bands at Winston-Salem State, and you've been director of bands at high schools, and you've also been the associate band director at Jackson.
That's right.
If you could talk about marching band and what the practice schedule entails and what the commitment level entails and what band camp entails.
Absolutely. Let's do it for what we do here in Winston. A little different than at Jackson State when I was there, but here at Winston-Salem State, we start during the summer, a couple of weeks before school starts for band camp. Now, when there is no school, we really have to practice hard because we put the program in place during band camp. In other words, the kinds of fundamentals that we need to operate our band program, we do that 2 weeks prior to school starting. So when classes begin, we're able to allow students to go to class and we don't interrupt that process. But band camp is pretty rough during the heat of the day, during the summers. We try not to go out when the sun is at its peak. We try not to go outside. We try to wait until the evenings, but we're inside trying to prepare music, trying to work on music. But we start at 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning with PT, we call it physical training. We break for breakfast, come back for 9 o'clock, run till 12, go eat lunch, come back at 2 to 5 for rehearsal inside, and hopefully by the time we get back from dinner around 7 until we do our evening rehearsal, and that's during band camp. That's 3 days during band camp. Now in the evening we go outside, we get the marching fundamentals down. Now we do that for 2 weeks, and then we prepare for an event. We have one 2 weeks after we get here this summer in Charlotte. We have a Battle of the Bands. So it's going to be rough, but those 3 days will prepare you mentally and physically. So it's pretty tough, especially when we talk about band camp. Of course, then when school starts, class starts at 5:45, it runs to 7. Class starts at 5:30 and runs to 7:45. At 7:45, we start our rehearsal. We have class at 5:30, but then after class, we start the regular band rehearsal, and we may run anywhere from 8 o'clock to 9:30, occasionally 10, very seldom later than that. I tell all the parents, if a student is saying they're in band practice till 11, 12 o'clock, they're not with us. They're doing something else. But we only can practice after everybody's out of class. So at 5:30, during class, during school, is when we start.
So would you say that band camp is comparable to training camp that athletes and athletics go to?
I would say so, because I understand they do 2 a days, but we come together 3 times a day, but we're not outside as much as they are. we only go out when the sun goes down or when it's on its way down. So we still get some of that heat during the summer. We can't avoid it. Sorry.
So with that being said, do you think that marching band should be considered a sport or is comparable to sports and athletics?
It is comparable, but marching band is a class. So it's a part of our academic process. I like it to be compared to as a sport because I have athletes in the band. These are real athletes. By the time we finish with them, I really consider them athletes. But unlike athletics, we're not as rugged or as durable, or we don't train as physically as they do. We're not the physical. Our physical fitness comes from playing these instruments and from marching up and down the football field. But there is some athletic parts of that. I can see the comparison.
After watching this, we hope that you have a better understanding of marching band and what it entails to be a member. Though you may not consider them full athletes, you now see what they go through and what it takes to be a member of the marching band and how they prepare themselves and how it is similar to athletics.